Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Lebanon Board of Park Commissioners. I'd like to call the meeting to order and let the record show that all members are present except Karen Galvin and John Lastly. If everyone's had an opportunity to look at the minutes from the February 5th meeting, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from the February meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Is there any old business to come before the board?
No.
No. Okay, hearing none. New business, Kevin Krulik is here this evening to make a presentation on the proposed bike park. I almost said bark park.
Here now.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time and your attention this evening. There's been a lot of buzz around a potential bike park that we've been developing. I thought I might, John might cringe a little bit here, but I thought I might start at the beginning and kind of walk you through where we're at here. And I apologize if this takes a little bit of time, but I wanted to bring you up to speed on what we think is a really exciting opportunity for the city. So this process, I guess, started about November of last year, and it just kind of started with some of us in the planning and engineering departments standing around talking about what could we do with the old city landfill, the old city dump. It seemed a shame that we had this 110 acres of partially wooded land out next to the golf course. Nothing can really happen with it as far as, development goes. And we started talking about potential park options and things of that nature. Immediately, though, as you start talking about park or walking trails and things of that nature, it's a couple miles outside town, so it's kind of a destination. So I'm not so sure that that's the best use because of just the nature of people. I don't know that they'll drive out to that park since you can't really walk to it easily and use the park. So we started thinking about other uses that could provide a more destination type of use. And a bike park came to mind. We were pleasantly surprised as we walked the site. The site actually has a lot of terrain. It's much different than most of Boone County, which is, as you know, flat as this table. We have to build sledding hills in this town. But there is 30 to 40 foot of grade change across that piece of property out there. It's a really unique piece of property. It's kind of flanked by two creeks, Prairie Creek and an unnamed tributary, but I think that's what really creates the terrain out there that does make this make for an interesting park setting. So we think this is an opportunity that, this is an amenity package that the city currently doesn't offer. Most cities don't offer. So we think this is an opportunity for us to be first and foremost in this type of an amenity offering, and we think it really puts us on the map, and we think it's a good idea that we should pursue. So immediately we started talking with mountain bike enthusiasts, mountain bike advocacy groups. We reached out to the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association to get their take. Hoosier Mountain Bike Association maintains virtually every public riding facility in the state. All the trails that are on public lands, like at Brown County State Park, Fort Harrison State Park. There's dozens of state parks now have mountain bike trails within them, and they maintain all of those. They also maintain trails on parks located in the Indy Park system. So they are really the lead advocacy group and trail operator and trail maintainers throughout the state. All the trails that they maintain entirely with their volunteer base. Those trails that are in those state parks, those trails that are in Indianapolis parks, don't require any real maintenance of the trails themselves, the riding surfaces, by the parks departments. They're maintained by the HMBA. So they were really excited about this proposition because they really don't have a lot of riding facilities on the northwest quadrant of Indianapolis. This would be a first for them. So they were really excited to see an opportunity to put something on this side of town where they know they have a lot of ridership in this area that typically travels to other parks. They gave us a suggestion, and really that suggestion is what's really risen to the top in this whole park concept, and that's for us to go out and talk to the to the National Interscholastic Cycling Association, or NICA, as we refer to them. NICA is a nationwide youth mountain bike racing, training, mountain bike events organization established in California. They're now in 31 states across the country. Indiana received its charter in 2018, and the Indiana chapter of NICA will host its first competitive races this year. So we think this is a neat opportunity. They're extremely excited. It lends itself to a lot of things that we think are unique to the facility. So as I said, NICA runs youth mountain bike racing clinics, mountain bike racing activities, events, mountain bike races. So this fits a unique niche for kids that maybe don't fit into your standard, traditional three sports that we grew up with. This is a competitive team, co-ed sport, and it's a really exciting sport, and I think it creates for a unique opportunity. And really what this does is lend itself to us building a very family-friendly park, because NICA doesn't design or doesn't want to hold races in facilities that are for too advanced of a rider. They want the lower novice to intermediate level riders to be able to compete on their courses. They want everyone to be able to compete on their courses. So with this sort of design criteria, it makes for a park that is going to be very rideable, very family friendly for everyone in mind. If you can ride a bike, you'll be able to ride these trails. So families could go out there and ride with their 5-year-old kids and their 75-year-old grandparents if they wanted. As long as you can, stay upright on a bike, you're going to be fine on these trails. They're going to be specifically designed to meet that universal ridership level. So that's where we think this is a really unique opportunity, that we're creating a healthy activity for families, a family-friendly activity, that we're promoting these opportunities and these lifestyles within our community. And we think that's really the sweet spot with this park development that we're talking about. To talk a little bit more about NICA, obviously we want to create a trail system that meets their standards so that they can host events out here. We will also be incorporating park riding facilities that will allow for more intermediate level skills development. So there will be something that even your more advanced riders would also be able to do. But the primary cross-country loops that we would be designing for the NICA races, and that's what these are, cross-country loops, similar to cross-country running, at the high school and middle school level, just on bikes. But what I think is really exciting about NICA, and we have already approved an agreement with the NICA national chapter that would make this the first NICA facility designed for their specifications, designed and built from the ground up, the first one in the country. We would own that. We would have that right to say that we were the first NICA facility in the country. Of course, they operate all over the country, but they operate on existing facilities. They've never had a park built with them in mind. So we think that's a unique opportunity. We also think, obviously there are environmental concerns with the nature of the property, it being a former landfill, but we've had good meetings already with IDEM. IDEM is very much encouraging us for this type of adaptive reuse of a facility. The good news is the landfill has been closed since 1987 officially. And so there's been a lot of time for those things to naturally biodegrade, and there's relatively low, if any, risk for any environmental contamination. But we will be required to make sure that we go through the proper testing. We want to make sure that this facility is environmentally sensitive. We want to make sure that it's also socially sensitive to our neighbors. We had so after we got involved with NICA, got involved with HMBA, we got introduced to a trail designer from California that has designed trails in the state of Indiana, as well as trails in all 50 states, 9 Canadian provinces, and runs mountain bike tourism activities all over the world. This is an award-winning park designer, and we're excited to have him on the team. One of the things that we did in late January was we brought him in, we brought the other stakeholders like NICA, like HMBA, some other skills development organizations that work with kids, some other groups that promote racing, and we had a full day of meetings. sitting down in the morning, talking about what we want, what we could wish for on the property. We spent 6 or so hours walking the site and looking at everything it had to offer. We held a public meeting that night. We were overwhelmed by the turnout for that public meeting. We had over 80 people in the room. And, put that in perspective, we do community-wide planning meetings. We do community-wide planning meetings for our downtown project. We were always lucky to get 20, 30, maybe 40 people in the room. So to have 80 people show up in support, that was exciting. Now, I will tell you, not everyone was in support. We had 2 or 3 people that came to that meeting that had concerns. They were neighbors, direct neighbors, had some concerns about what might happen out there. I caution people that, if you Google mountain biking, you're going to get some extreme videos pop up on your phone or your computer. You're going to see stuff like the X Games. You're going to see stuff like Red Bull Racing. That is not what this is. As I said, this is a family-friendly park facility built and designed for youth racing and family activities, and that is very much what we're trying to get here. This is not an extreme sports park. But I think there were some misconceptions going into that meeting, and it took some time to walk alongside of our neighbors and to let them truly understand what we were planning to. I met with both of the most vocal neighbors one-on-one after that meeting. I'm not going to tell you that they are 100% in support of the project, but I would say they are accepting of the project at this point. We've also listened to their concerns and made a lot of improvements to where we started the project. You can look at the plans before you, or we'll put it up on the screen. But some of the things we heard at that public meeting is we moved the trails from the extreme perimeter of the site. We moved those interior to the site. The more intense uses you see on the sort of the south end of the project, where the parking is, where some of the skills progression parks areas are, we originally were putting those up in the north central part of the site, up on the high ground, where we thought would be easiest to construct. But really, what that did was that really frightened some of our neighbors that live immediately to the north and immediately to the east that were concerned about some of the more intensive activities. So we did listen to them. We did move those more intensive uses to the south. We moved the trails in from right next to our property lines. We've committed to making sure that we secure the perimeter of the site. So again, I think this leads to where we are now with some of those more vocal opponents for the project. They are accepting of the project as it stands now. So that's where the project is there. As I said, the main feature of the park is that cross-country loop that you see sort of winding around the perimeter of the site. That is that cross-country loop that will be designed for those NICA events. And then again, the more intensive uses to the south, the skills park areas, the jump trail, the pump track, the kids track. Those will all be down at the south, where we can more easily control those. We can more easily worry about security. We can more easily maintain those areas. So that's where we stand right now in terms of the opportunities there. We've been looking at fundraising options through grants, through corporate partnerships, and we're really excited to have some strong headway on those. In fact, just in the last 2 days, we've received preliminary notice from one of what we hope to be our key sponsors for the park that will really be making a large donation, an extremely large donation that would result in the construction of the park if we would so choose to move forward. But again, we think this is a positive opportunity for the city. We think it's a great partnership with NICA to bring kids and young families in. We think it's also then a great opportunity for our community to have these family-friendly outdoor activities available as well. And and with bringing in the NICA teams that will host events 3 to 4 times a year, that's also going to promote economic development strategies throughout the city. That's going to bring people in that will stay in our hotels, shop in our restaurants, or dine in our restaurants, shop in whatever shopping opportunities that we have. So we think this is something that will be a regional draw, certainly statewide, but perhaps a little bit outside of our state into the Midwest as well as we begin hosting these events. So I'm very happy to talk more about this. The plan is before you. I also put forth to you, there's a copy of the sponsorship or funding proposal that we've prepared that really kind of outlines a lot of what we've just said. From the vision of the park, to create a family-friendly facility, to the goals that we're trying to achieve as we begin developing this, to our core values that we've set forward. Values like family, community, health, conservation, and service. So we think this is an excellent opportunity for the city. The concept plan is there. There's some more details I won't get in and some more pictures if you have questions about what some of those features are, but there's details of what those park amenities might look like in the back of that. And then as well, we've got our development team, obviously the city. Hill Ride is the name of that award-winning bike park designer that we're working with out of the Oakland, California area. And then the key sponsor, the key stakeholder is really the Indiana chapter and the national charter of the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So I think that probably covers everything. Again, we're really excited for this opportunity. Really excited to create a new amenity for the city. And we think this is a great opportunity that we've put before you and to expand our park offerings.
I have a question. Have they given you any kind of an estimate, IDEM, on testing, or, because I know from experience that can take forever.
Yes. Yes, we've talked with them extensively, and we had a really productive meeting with them last week. Really what they're asking us to do now, essentially, and the proposal for how we're going to build the park is we would build up. We don't dig down into the landfill areas. We don't disturb the 2-foot clay cap that was placed over all the trash. We have to build up. That is the key criteria with any adaptive reuse of a landfill. They want us to delineate the perimeter of where the trash was buried. So there is some testing that would be involved in there, but it's relatively inexpensive testing. This is going out with a small piece of equipment, a small excavator, and digging holes. And once you find trash, you fill that hole back in and you move over until you find the perimeter of where the trash is. And we have some records, some historic records for where we start to look for those things to find those perimeters. And there's also some visible evidence as you walk the site of where we think the trash was buried. So we've also looked at historical aerial photography where we can see the activities that were happening out there through the years. The facility operated since 1959 through 1984. So we've got a lot of data out there. But again, we've had very positive meetings with IDEM, very positive conversations over the phone as well as in person. Yes, there will be some testing that will be involved. But we actually already have some of our engineering partners have expressed the need to support this project in such a way that they may be willing to perform some of that testing pro bono for us because they believe in the mission of this development.
I have a question for you, too. I was reading through the materials you have in a little packet, and I'm not real familiar with this whole concept, so some of the terminology I'm uncertain about. Pump track, I see a picture in there of it, and I see the description. I still don't really understand what is a pump track.
Well, a pump track is a relatively compact track with hills and bank turns, and the idea is that once you get up some momentum in a pump track, you're able just by the force of pushing your bike through those hills and up and over those hills that you can pump your way through the track without having to pedal. So really the idea is once you get a little bit of a momentum, you can keep going around and around this pump track without actually having to put your feet on the pedals. You'd keep your feet on the pedals, but you wouldn't have to pedal.
Gotcha. All right.
What's the surface of that?
Dirt.
Looks like packed dirt, right?
Yeah, packed dirt. There are some stabilizing agents that we would put into the dirt that keep it from eroding and degrading. But yeah, most of the facilities we're talking about, with the exception of some wood features that would probably be built in the skills park, all the trails are dirt. They want a natural surface. So to protect the cap, what we would probably be doing is laying down about 6 to 12 inches of stone and covering that with 3 to 4 inches of clay, building a trail that is about 6 feet wide, but then it would be allowed to be be allowed to be vegetated, or the weeds would be allowed to grow in, leaving a resulting trail that's 2 or 3 feet wide when we're done. So these are very much low impact to the environment. These don't create large footprints that you have to maintain. And again, when it comes to maintenance of the track features themselves, the trail features, we've already been working on that partnership with Hoosier Mountain Bike Association, where they would establish a local volunteer base to help maintain that. In terms of what the Parks Department would maintain, or what the city would maintain, and I say or city because the city street department also does some mowing around the city, so maybe there's an opportunity where the street department is out in that area mowing ditches, they could also be mowing around the parking lots. So essentially what I would see is the city would be responsible for maintaining the grass areas around the parking lot, maintaining the parking lot in terms of snow removal in the wintertime, but the trails themselves would really be maintained by a team of volunteers that are organized through the HMBA. It's not to say we wouldn't want some park staff to have some training on skills that they might need to maintain these dirt trails, but it's not an extensive or exhaustive effort to maintain them. We're talking about rakes and shovels just to rake out any ruts that might happen in wet weather, or fill in dirt as it might become eroded with the tire treads.
Does the local, does the community of Lebanon have membership into that organization? Do we have many people that are part of that?
That's a good question. I know there are several people in Lebanon that are members. It is a personal membership program. There are not professional memberships. There's not municipal memberships. So I know there are members in this area, but I've never seen statistics of how many people. I mean, I guess I had one thing that I would talk about is, we've been working on a market study for the area where the old Holiday Inn site used to be. And one of the things we're studying on that is what kind of destination type uses might fit well on that property. And we were pleasantly surprised a few weeks back when the group that's doing this market research and doing this demographic research came back and said, have you ever considered an indoor mountain bike park? Well, we hadn't, but we were talking about this outdoor mountain bike park, and we asked them why they suggest that. And we were floored to find out that they said that when they do studies and they do demographic studies, there's over 500,000 people within a 3-mile drive or a 3-hour drive of Lebanon that identify as being a mountain biker. So there is really this subculture, this culture, this community of mountain bikers throughout our state and throughout the Midwest area. If you don't know it, Brown County is actually a hub for mountain biking. It's probably the best mountain biking in the Midwest. People come from around the country to ride the mountain bike trails in Brown County. So, there really is an underlying community that we think is underserved here, and we think would really support the project.
Trying to imagine an indoor mountain bike park.
Yeah. What they started studying is there are several indoor mountain bike parks across the country, and they studied the 3 most successful and 3 largest ones and said, we think it would work in Lebanon because you have more people within a 3-hour drive of Lebanon than any of those other parks. So
Would the outdoor one be open in the winter?
It would, but it's very weather dependent. You're not supposed to ride trails when they're wet. That is something that really the mountain bike community does pretty well at policing themselves, because when you ride trails when they're wet, you rut them up. It becomes more maintenance to repair them. So that's a common issue with mountain bikers is that, and we always preach it, is that you don't ride in the mud. You don't ride on wet. You can ride in the wintertime if it's muddy and then you go through a freeze cycle where the ground is frozen. You can ride on frozen ground. But right now you virtually have no place to ride anywhere in the state because it's so wet out there right now. But we do feel like the way we would build it with building up because of the landfill requirements, that we would create a trail system that is very weather-worthy, you might say, that it would dry out very quickly because we'd be building up as opposed to digging down in. So we think that's also advantageous for how we would develop the park.
And there is a way to tie in our bike trail that we have now to come across to tie into that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
plans.
You know, I mean,
We could do that.
we've
yeah.
thought about that. You know, if you go out onto the Big Four Trail towards Thorntown, when you cross County Road 350, you're about a 2-mile ride up that gravel road to get to the bike park. Now, granted, you would have to ride across US 52. That's not something I think we would necessarily want to promote, because that's a difficult thing to do. And certainly, I don't think the state would like us, you know, promoting bicycles riding across 52.
Build a bridge.
But,
There you go.
but yeah, I mean, that is an option. Obviously, that's not an option for today, but down the road, you know, a way to get in there. We also have, I had a good conversation, actually last week, or earlier this week, excuse me. I was at the State House speaking about this with some other bicycle advocacy groups, and I got approached by someone that works for Healthy Indiana, works for the state of Indiana, when they promote healthy wellness programs, especially biking throughout the state. And he mentioned that NDOT actually now has a bicycle planner on staff. And he highly suggested that we set up a meeting with him to talk about adding a bike trail along US 52 to get people from Lebanon City proper to the bike park. So, you know, we've already kind of got a way where if you were to go north on 39 and you were to cross over 300, that's a way to get over I-65, you know, and then so if we were to have a bike trail along the east side of 52 from 300 to the bike park, which is less than 3 miles, you know, that's a really workable distance for a bike rider. But I think for now, it's primarily going to be people putting their bikes in their trucks and driving up there. So.
Yeah,
Will there be some kind of security then? Is there a way to shut it off so they can't get in and like ride when it's wet?
Absolutely. You know, our plan, if you might not be able to see all the details on there, but we talked some about the gating systems that we would put in place. Some of that is for staging of events, but also that would be so that we could close down the trails during inclement weather. You know, and I think we would also talk about security camera systems. We would talk about patrols of the area. I would also point out, though, that, you know, mountain bikers are really good about policing their trails. You know, you can't break too many rules on a mountain bike trail without a mountain biker turning you in, because they know that, you know, they don't want to get their trails shut down. They fight very hard to get access to these riding areas, and they don't want people abusing those riding areas and someone deciding it's too much trouble, let's just take it away. On that note, I would point out, too, I think there was also some misconceptions that this is going to be a bunch of kids on BMX bikes. Your average mountain biker in the state of Indiana is 40 years old. Your average mountain biker in the state of Indiana spent over $2,000 on their bike. You know, these are generally not hoodlums. Your average mountain biker probably has more money in his bike than, you know, the average golfer in the golf course right next door. And so generally speaking, these are pretty upstanding members of society.
Does it have to be a mountain bike?
It does not, no. You know, and that's, I think, again, with the design of it, you could go out there with your kids on BMX bikes. My family and I personally, we've ridden on mountain bike trails when we've been camping, where we've probably for the last 5 or 6 years, where our boys were on mountain bikes or on BMX bikes. I had a mountain bike from Walmart, you know, and by no means an expensive mountain bike, and my wife was riding on a beach cruiser. And we've also been on trips now where I've got a little bit nicer mountain bike, but I've also, many of you know my daughter Winnie, who's special needs, and I've pulled her behind my bike on these trails. So that's the kind of, you know, we're talking about those novice to intermediate level trails. They're pretty easy to ride. You know, it's just a unique atmosphere where you're riding on a dirt trail through the woods, and it creates for a unique experience. I'd recommend everyone try.
Kevin, you mentioned that about the policing themselves, pretty
Yeah.
much. And you said that if somebody was messing up, they would turn them in. Who do they turn them into?
Well, we would have signage out there of who to call, whether that would be the volunteers. Typically, the way HMBA manages their trail systems, they generally have a steward that they assign to each park. So there's generally one point of contact that organizes volunteers. So that would be a way. They very much police themselves through social media aspects. There'd be a social media page dedicated directly to this park. Of course, we would have numbers for law enforcement and things like that as well that we would encourage people to call.
So law enforcement there would be who?
Well, that's a good question. We are in the
That's where I was
county.
going with my thinking. yeah.
Maybe I haven't thought that through. We are in the county there, but that wouldn't stop. I mean, our police officers are able to leave the city limits, and especially that is city property. So I don't think it would be a problem for our city officers. I wouldn't think it'd be on a regular, basis throughout the day, but certainly that might be an area we would want to patrol in the evening. But again, I think we could, with security lights on the parking lot areas and making sure that we've got security cameras on site, I think we can eliminate some of the security concerns.
Thank you.
And generally speaking, these are not, mountain bike trails throughout the state are generally not areas of high crime or anything of that nature. They're generally in pretty good areas.
This green area out here on the outside, is that just going to be natural habitat?
Yeah.
I mean,
And really, with the exception of
wildflowers.
some mowing that we would do around those feature skills areas in the parking lot on the south end, typical maintenance procedures on a cross-country trail like that, it's typically mowed twice a year. And the rest of the time, the weeds are just allowed to grow in close. The riders keep the dirt packed down, so there's no vegetation there. Not to mention, it's a stone base with a clay cap on it. So there's not a lot of mowing or maintenance on the edges of those trails either.
What's next then?
I think it's really fundraising. I think we've talked a lot about this with City Council. Obviously, they have funded the planning level efforts to date, and we'll be back in front of them on Monday to ask for consideration on additional funding for construction document preparation. We've been looking at grant opportunities. There's not a lot of high-dollar grant opportunities out there, but there are some smaller grants that we're pursuing. And then we've been reaching out to corporate partners, asking for them to support the project. And as I mentioned, I feel bad saying it because I can't really give you the details, but we've had a major national mountain bike component manufacturer that's reached out to us and said, we want to be involved in this, and we want to write a large six-figure check. So,
Nice.
And they'd want naming rights for that?
that would
That's
come with
the
it. We have to,
negotiating
we
part,
have to
right?
negotiate
Yeah.
that, what exactly that is going to look like. But yes, they
Yeah.
want
want
their
their name on
name
it.
and their
Yeah.
logo plastered all over this,
Yes.
That's cool.
so. And I think what that does show you and shows the city council that there is an underlying community and need for this that can be supported at a major corporate level. This is not hoodlums on bikes out there. This is definitely something very, very mainstream. This is definitely a culture and a community that exists today that has corporate backing and corporate sponsorship for these types of events. So.
Great, thank you.
Any
Yeah.
other questions for Kevin?
Anything needed from the park board for anything?
I don't think so at this time. I just wanted to give you an update of where we're at today. Obviously, we would see this as a city park, an extension of our park system. So there may be actions that would need to be taken down the road, but just wanted to let you know where we're at, that we're moving in this direction, and because of the good feedback we have, we felt it was important to come talk to you to let you know that, we feel as though the time is right to move this past a planning level phase and start talking about real construction planning and and putting together those systems, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for updating us on this. It's very interesting. We appreciate all your work on this.
Please keep us posted.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you. Okay, next on the agenda is the director's report. Are you going to introduce Billy?
Okay.
John?
What?
Are you going to introduce Billy?
Oh, yeah. In the audience today is our Superintendent Billy Smith. I thought he'd like to get up and say a few words on what all is going on. Now, Billy's done a great job. Billy took the superintendent's job last year. Can't say enough about what all he's done and what he brings to the table. He has a great skill set, and he's working with a pretty, young group as far as tenure. I think we have one person at 4 years, 3 years, and then the rest are around a year. So a lot of experience, though, comes with a lot of these, and skill set with a lot of the employees. But I think Billy has 4, 5, 6 different projects going on as we speak. As you hear, a lot of my reports are the progress that we're making in the parks, and it's a lot of due to him and the hard work of all the parks employees. But Billy's been a great, just advantageous, caring. You can go 7 days a week in the park, and Billy is in the park. I can't keep him out of there. Try and make him go on vacations and golfing all the time. Now I can see he'll be BMXing and playing golf at Country Club now. But now Billy's done a great job. I can't say enough about him. Saving us a lot of money, too, as far as, obviously, we're very frugal with our money. I think Billy's almost as tight as me, if not tighter, but if we can do something with our experience and with his knowledge, it gets it done. And it's just great with these projects that we do have going on, like the restroom. His knowledge in the construction industry just helps us tremendously. And he isn't going to speak. We should have him sing the national anthem or something, but anyway, there again, he's, Wednesday night, he's out here checking out our park board, so that's great. We've just completed our second round of open interviews for summer positions, and now I've hired over 17 new employees. We still have a few openings available for teenagers 15 years or older. There again, Lori Frost has done quite a few interviews, and as I said, we've hired 17. We have 2 manager positions that we filled also. One came back from last year. We hired another gentleman that works for the school system that he also was a manager over at Carmel, so we're really excited about him coming on board. And he was really thrilled after he saw our facility, how clean it was, and he loves how it's set up. So he's worked at Carmel there at the big water park, and he was real excited about coming over to us, and his experience is awesome. So really glad to bring him on board to help us out. We're also ahead of schedule on our winter projects. We have the Civic Rec software that we keep trucking along. We have about 2 2-hour meetings a week with the Civic Rec, so we're right on schedule to open that up in April. That was Taylor's time frame. She wanted to make sure that it was up and going in plenty of time before we open the pool, because once April, May hits, we are and unbelievably busy, so we're online with that. Our park impact fee, we're working on that, still going forward on it. We've had, I think, 3 or 4 meetings already. There again, that's moving along great. Working with the financial people. We have also some real estate and construction people, along with Ben Bondetrager in our planning department, who's leading the way there. That's moving along outstanding. We should be ready to throw that in front of the council at the end of May, and that'll be a nice little revenue stream for new park projects and things that, as the city is growing, we can have the amenities for the people. There again, construction on the restroom and maintenance addition is moving along very well also. They're working in the addition right now, the restroom. I don't know why they haven't been out this week that much, but as far as that, it's moving along well. They're way ahead of schedule. I think July 1st was their drop dead date. It should be ready, I would say, by the end of March, I think, is what they're pushing to get done. So move along with that very well. We've also done some work on, it's been a very nice winter, so I think that helped them get ahead. Very nice mild winter, so we've got a lot of work done around the parks. We're way ahead of schedule there. The floors in the bathhouse have been repaired and refinished. The walls have been painted. Partitions, we're looking at those now. Those should be installed in the next couple of weeks, along with the inside updates. We're removing the outside rotted facade and replacing it with fiberboard. There again, that's our skill set. That's Billy that is leading the way on that, and our skill set with the guys, just saving quite a bit of money by doing these projects inside. We had the original contractor from New York come out to assess the wave pool. It was well worth the money and spending having him come out. We discovered a bearing that was out in a 60 horsepower motor, which is a special motor. Our staff also gained a lot of knowledge about having the functions of the wave pool, because none of these people were on board when these contractors came out. The New York group came out to actually help with the facility, so it was really good to have them, and they made a lot of good suggestions. Everybody that comes in our pool house too is just amazed at that it's 7 years old. They said, "Did you guys just build this?" Other than the contractor that was here 7 years ago. But anyway, great experience there. Obviously, with the great weather we're experiencing right now, we're getting the beds ready throughout the parks and downtown cleaned up, along with prepping our beds with pre-emergence in our sports fields. There again, quite a bit of work that we've been able to knock off the list this week. Next couple of weeks, we'll begin working on some drainage work throughout the parks, some new projects that will be starting up, with a few being repairing the tennis courts. We're going to put pickleball courts and repair the tennis courts at Memorial and Abner Longley Park. That's on schedule. Hopefully next week they'll be beginning that project. They can't coat it till it's 50 degrees consistently, so as soon as they can, they'll be coating after they do all the installation. Started our installing the exercise equipment that I spoke about last meeting, the adult exercise equipment in Memorial Park. We'll be installing that. After we met with council, the park board, we had a couple more meetings concerning the lighting in Memorial Park. Again, Kevin Krulick's leading that push with us and helping us out with the engineering part of it. We're working down to nail the scope of the project, and our next steps are to present to the council to secure funding on all that. We also have a big dance coming up here, the Daddy-Daughter Dance, 2020 Daddy-Daughter Dance will be held Saturday, March 21st from 6 to 9. Tickets are on sale for $20 a couple and 5 additional child, and the tickets can be purchased in the park office. And we have quite a big show going on there. I think some of the stuff that you'll see in your claims tonight that are for the Daddy-Daughter Dance. So real excited about it, and everything's gearing up for this very big season we got coming up. Hopefully the weather holds. Our restrooms, we have not opened those yet. I hate to open them up, even though it says the next 2 weeks will be about 50 degrees. We can't just flip a switch and open them up. It takes quite 3 or 4 hours to close a restroom. And we're going to be barraged with people again this weekend like we were last, because I think temperatures are up to 55 to 60 degrees. We do have a restroom available. It's a portalette over at Memorial Park. Unfortunately, that's the best thing we can do right now, rather than opening and closing. We don't want any of these pipes to freeze and then it be a great big expense. So if we see the weather's going to stay consistent, then we'll open the restrooms up for the public. But bear with us as we do that. It's if you remember last Easter was later in April, and we had snow, so, and the temperatures were freezing, so you just never know what Mother Nature's going to do. We're keeping an eye on that. If it's going to consistently stay cool or warm, we'll open those restrooms up. Everything's moving along, the restrooms are going great. Looking forward to those opening up. And then they'll be heated, and we won't have to worry about at least Memorial Park in a restroom. So, that's where we are.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that the lighting project is moving forward.
Yes.
And the drainage.
Yes. Kevin Krulik's helped us out with stormwater money to take care of part of the drainage that we're doing. It's kind of part of the project, but we found a few issues. We're going to set it up so we can tap into these lines going through, so that'll help out a lot. And
Okay.
we're moving forward, and that's good.
And the impact fees, yes, I was going to bring that up just to keep you all aware that there have been meetings and they're hoping to take it to the council, as John said, in May. And that will be great for us, for projects and everything, so.
This doesn't hit the taxpayer out there currently, it'll hit
No, it's
the new homes.
developers.
So the new roofs that we get, they're looking at a road impact fees also. All the other communities around are doing it. It's just something that we need to get on board with. And with all the new growth that we have, obviously, they're going to impact, and that's going to help us take care of
Right.
our new parks.
Right, have no effect on current taxpayers, it's all the developers. Okay. The one thing, before we pay the claims, we need to approve a quote that John received for the partitions. And these are in the bathhouse?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we've had several, and the quote that I'd like to, if you could approve payment on Circle Supply, and then it'll be in your, obviously in the next claims that we have, but Circle City Supply, Inc., Frankfurt, to purchase the partitions and have them installed at partitions.
That's at the bathhouse, not the...
That's the bathhouse.
Bathhouse.
No, it's did I say restroom?
No,
Yeah.
you said bathhouse,
Okay.
but I thought earlier we said restrooms.
So we're approving right now 50% for them to cut a check to order, and then it'll come through the claims when the
Yes.
completion.
Right.
Okay, and that's $23,999.98.
Yes,
Okay.
sure is.
Okay, so I think, first of all, we'll do a motion to approve that quote,
Okay.
to proceed with payment, as you've outlined, 50%. So do I have a motion to approve the quote? I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Now, if everyone's had an opportunity to review the claims, I'd entertain a motion to approve the claims.
I move that we approve the claims as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. If there's no other business to come before the board this evening, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for joining us this evening.